Welcome to the Compensation and Benefits course. Today's first session is traditionally held in an open format. It's called Fundamentals of Compensation and Current Research. Why do we need to study this field? The fact is that compensation and benefits experts are the highest paid employees in the HR department. Non-managerial roles earn between $1,000 and $2,000 a month, while managers earn $3,000 to $5,000. When I worked as a recruiter at Alpha Bank, I remember being very envious of the much higher salaries in that department. I certainly liked my job, but I thought, wow, why do they pay so much over there? It's truly one of the highest paid areas in HR. This is the course website, and we'll start with a brief introduction. I'll tell you about myself. My name is Mike Pritula. I've worked at Alpha Bank, STB TV channel, Wargaming, Preply, consulted for PeopleForce, then launched an academy, and created the PPHR product. What's notable in terms of this course? When I worked at STB TV channel, I was fully responsible for compensation and benefits. I implemented grading, planned payroll budgets, planned salary reviews, developed bonus systems, administered and optimized them. What else is interesting? I developed various scenarios for salary reviews. We also implemented grading with EY and considered implementing the Hay system, but it didn't fit. I adapted the Hay system factors before implementing the grading system and created a custom grading system. We also started participating in salary market surveys there. In gaming, I had a lot of experience too. I first conducted a salary market survey in the gaming industry as a project. I ran a grading project in the 3 largest offices, and some other projects as well. At Preply, I also built a compensation system. What interesting things can I share? When I worked in gaming, I was fortunate to work with Glenn Elliott. He was my manager for about a year or maybe a year and a half. Before gaming, Glenn had worked at Google, Tesla, and HP. He had incredible experience, specifically in compensation, which I learned from him. With Glenn, who was based in San Francisco, we had regular calls. I was in Minsk at the time, and for the first time in Minsk, I organized an IT sector salary market survey with Redford Company. I invited about 100 companies and around 50 participated. This allowed us to establish appropriate salaries in our company. Redford Company thanked me for this. I received a letter from their director for implementing such a project. My manager Glenn was also copied on it, so that's to give you an understanding of my experience. Throughout my career, I've received many awards. I've been published in magazines. I was even featured on a cover once. I've won in various nominations, received diplomas, certificates, and so on. I have 3 international certifications from leading organizations in the field: Human Capital Institute, SRM, and HCI. Our academy has also had its successes. Firstly, we have over 10,000 students. Secondly, we have high loyalty at the level of 80 points, which is quite good. And we have awards like a silver button from YouTube. In our work, we rely on best practices. The flagship of this course is the World at Work organization. It's shown at the bottom. It's the most advanced leading organization that develops competency models, publishes a lot of research, has written books, and so on. We'll be learning in this course in full synchronization with this organization, meaning we'll incorporate all best practices. I see we have a few people online. I've turned off YouTube chat to avoid switching. You can write your job title in the comments. For those in Zoom who are online, please write your job title. I'm curious about what function you represent and where you work. At this point, I'll talk about homework. We have homework assignments in this course. Completing them will allow you to earn our diploma. It's also your practical experience. You'll receive feedback on the homework assignments. This is also valuable. We issue diplomas on an online platform called Accreditable. It's also one of the world's best credentialing platforms. Google, for example, also issues diplomas there. All right, so what does the course program look like? Let's take a look. First is the introductory session. We're taking an overview of the areas we'll examine in detail during the course. In the second session, we'll discuss how to analyze job positions. That is, how to describe positions so that we can build grading and bonuses based on the description. In the third session, we'll study how job grading is designed. In the fourth, how a bonus system is developed. In the fifth, how a benefit system is implemented. The sixth covers salary market surveys and budgeting for salaries and benefits. The seventh focuses on analysis and how to use surveys to evaluate how well the system is working. And in the eighth, We'll cover achievement recognition programs, referral bonuses, and other types of bonuses that companies can develop. It's a very practical course, well structured by topics, step by step, and easy to understand. And now I'm updating it with current data to ensure it contains the most up-to-date information. Today we'll discuss what companies pay employees for, what fixed pay options exist, salary ranges, and how companies align with the market. We'll also look at some relevant studies. The first thing I'd like to start with is what we call compensation and benefits, or in English, compensation and benefits. Today, in the perception of global HR professionals, this is seen as part of a system called total rewards. This part is the most tangible monetary component because total rewards also includes two other areas: employee development and employee recognition. Since development is a separate function, it's called LD, learning and development. Recognition can be organized in various ways, depending on what it includes and how companies implement it. It could be, for example, a management system implemented by the LD function or other departments. So how does this work? It's important to understand that modern total rewards from a company's perspective is a strategic level system. It's not viewed as, let's say, an expense department that just spends money on people. So it's not seen as something ineffective. A modern total reward system is one that helps a company address three main challenges. These are attracting employees, motivating them, and retaining them. And since these three challenges are strategic for any company, because companies depend heavily on all of this. That's why top management is interested in this function and participates in various meetings and so on. Now let's break it down piece by piece. What this means. Today we'll break down these three components: compensation, benefits, and welfare concerns. Compensation includes salary. This is the main part of this area, the largest in terms of payroll. Bonuses typically make up about 15%, while benefits depend on the industry and company. It could be, at minimum, around 1% of the payroll fund and up to about 10%, in rare cases 15% of the payroll fund. Thus, salary is the largest part that a company spends on people, often even within the structure of all company expenses. Payroll can be the largest line item. That is, many IT companies and companies without manufacturing, for example, spend the most on wages. What's happening in this area? Well, wages around the world are constantly rising. It's a fact that the world is constantly revising wages, though sometimes wages can be frozen. Globally, they don't decrease. But we must understand that besides wages, there's always inflation. Let's say that most often wages are revised at a higher rate than inflation. But during crisis periods, wages tend to lag behind inflation. That is, inflation during a crisis begins to grow faster, while the rate of wage revision decreases. Because many companies freeze wages. That's why there's a concept of real wages, which can have negative growth due to inflation eating away at it. Overall, interestingly, this year's data shows that wage growth rates are more or less similar across regions globally, of course within regions like Europe or Asia. The figures will be different for individual countries, but globally things are leveling off. The world is becoming more global and more equalized. Another interesting thing is that we can see wage growth rates are about 40 to 50% higher in some cases. That is, 30 to 45% higher than the inflation rate. So for example, if Turkey has an inflation rate of 100% a year, the wage growth rate, of course, won't be just 5% but higher. They are always interconnected. Let's move on. Here's some more interesting data. This year, wage growth has actually been lower than planned. There were three major predictions from PayScale, which is a reputable organization in the compensation field, World at Work, which I've already mentioned, and Mercer, also well known. They all said, or rather their survey respondents stated, that growth was projected to be around 4%, but in fact wages have increased by 3.6%. This is data for a specific country. It's difficult to gather such data worldwide because some companies operate in some regions, others in different ones. So it's hard to collect such data globally. Even with the example of one of the largest countries in the world, it's interesting to observe, because other economies often follow this economy. So this is the situation. Growth was slightly lower. Some companies took a wait-and-see approach due to global instability. Some companies revised their projections downward. Therefore, the actual growth is less. In 2025, wage growth is also expected to decline. That is, this is how it was this year, and this is how it's planned for next year. Again, Survey participants expect growth to be lower, but this is also related to global crises. By the way, you can still see references to COVID in all kinds of studies and publications. We're still dealing with the aftermath of COVID. Next, another interesting trend in salaries is the concept of the gender pay gap, which is the difference in pay between men and women. We can see that this gap is narrowing. It shows how much a woman earns in relation to $1 earned by a man. And we can see that if in 2015 it was 73 cents, now it's 83 cents. In companies where there is conscious monitoring of these indicators, the situation is certainly better. But it's not changing. It's grown a little bit. There are companies that implement policies and explicitly control and address this gap. Where this doesn't exist, the situation is evening out, but there's still a lag. This is, by the way, another study by PayScale that we're looking at. I can tell you that if you need research on wages, benefits, or something related, definitely look for PayScale World at Work Mercer. SRM often publishes, but they often republish. So it's likely that it could have been published somewhere else and then republished. And so you don't forget about this, I decided to add a link to PayScale right on the slide. PayScale has a research and insights section where they publish fresh news about the field. I recommend all experts in this field, or those just interested, to read it regularly. What else we need to know? Besides the fact that different companies may have different salaries and ranges, and we'll figure out later why this is how companies structure it. I'd like to talk to you about a concept called compensation philosophy and its connection to business goals. Because how much a company pays is not just a decision of some manager to pay all employees in a certain position this much. At the core is a certain philosophy that the company believes in and preaches. It's very important for compensation and benefits experts to recognize it. It's often in the minds of owners, it may be in the minds of managers, it may be explicit or implicit. Explicit is when it's common for a company to talk about it, saying we pay for this, we give raises for this, we don't give raises for that. Implicit is when no one talks about it, decisions are just made based on internal beliefs when the time comes. So, let's get familiar with this concept. The first interesting thing to note here is that the modern approach to this relationship is changing. While it used to be seen as something purely HR related, managed by HR, now more and more companies see it as a manager's tool. That is, they believe it's the manager's job to manage this area. HR's job is to build the system, provide analytics, tools, give advice and recommendations, but ideally, managers should make the decisions. This has changed a lot because, for example, when I worked at Alpha Bank, it was almost like only HR decided everything. Managers could ask, beg, threaten all they wanted, but HR decided who got paid how much. Only top management. Only the bank president could have any influence on the situation. Things are changing now. Now, HR managers mostly convince, recommend, develop systems, say let's do it this way because it's right. And here's a system, a formula, some recommendations, and managers can agree or disagree. That's how it was in gaming, for example. We built a system with grading, performance evaluations, and salary ranges. Recommendations were calculated based on all this information. We gave the recommendations to the managers with our arguments. About 90% of the managers accepted them, saying, okay, let it be. And about 10% said, no, this doesn't work for us, and here's why. And then we would send them to their supervisors and ask for approval. Compensation philosophy. What does it define? Who the company considers a competitor for talent. This may seem insignificant and unimportant, but it's not. It's actually a very important thing. Because it answers the question of who we're competing with, who we're comparing ourselves to. Who do we want to outperform? Because, for example, in gaming for a company in Belarus, in Minsk, it was difficult. Because in Belarus, there weren't worthy competitors specifically in this industry of computer game development. There were many IT companies, but they weren't direct competitors. And the closest competitors were in Europe or Russia. In Ukraine, a little bit, the gaming market, Europe, and it took the company a long time to realize who our competitors were. When they realized that we probably weren't competing locally but globally, that our best employees could leave for Europe, then they started looking at salaries in Europe for key positions. Next, the compensation philosophy determines how the company pays compared to the market. There are 3 strategies for market comparison. They're called in English lead, match, or lag. Lead is when a company is ahead of the market that is leading, while some say lag is staying behind or catch is catching up. When a company deliberately pays less to match the market, it's always trying to pay according to market rates. There's also the lag strategy, where a company sets salary review dates different from others, so it's ahead of the market part of the year and behind when everyone else has revised. They revised earlier, paying a bit more than everyone else revised, and they pay a bit less. Next, similarly, the compensation philosophy defines the balance between internal fairness and external competitiveness. Some companies say it's very important to be fair internally above all else, to avoid offending anyone. Some companies say the most important thing is being able to hire candidates from the market. So what their current employees think doesn't matter. They won't tell anyone. They'll hire as needed. It's important to understand how this works in your company. Furthermore, the roles of HR managers and total rewards experts are also defined by the compensation philosophy, how the company views who should manage it. Some companies say any salary question should go to compensation benefits or total rewards, they'll handle everything. In other companies, it's the opposite. You're the manager, you decide, and they just do the paperwork, but wait, that's not right, and so on. What else? What technologies and systems are used? Some companies say they need a simple universal system for everyone. Some companies say they're willing to have many different systems. For example, when I worked in gaming, the bonus system was the same for everyone. When I worked at STB TV channel, we had about 30 different bonus systems that varied greatly. These were different philosophies. Next, what incentive systems are available and to whom? What percentage, what mechanics, what formula, whether new employees are eligible immediately or only after probation, after 6 months, or after a year. The type of corporate culture and desired results are also determined by the compensation philosophy. I'd say compensation philosophy is probably linked to corporate culture, and expected results are also determined by the philosophy. Some companies say they're only willing to spend on people where they see a benefit for themselves. For example, we're ready to offer a benefit that will also benefit the company. And some companies say, yes, we understand we need to pay market rates. The market spends 30% on salaries, so we're also willing to spend 30% of our revenue on salaries. The ROI requirements for each program are also determined by the compensation philosophy. Some companies say, as I mentioned, every program must pay for itself. If we implement something, if we implement a bonus, we need to understand what benefit it will bring us. And some say, well, let's do it because everyone else is doing it. The scope and type of programs is also determined. Some companies say, let's offer more of everything, let's develop, let's be better than others. Some companies say, what's the point of all this? Give people the 3 most important things and that's enough. The role of support systems like recognition of achievements. Some companies don't believe in all this. Netflix, for example, once said they don't believe in bonuses, awards, benefits, they just pay salaries. Our salary is all inclusive. It includes everything, plus we give stock options. And some companies say, no, we need to have everything. We need a system for recognizing achievements, we need performance reviews, feedback, and so on. Here are a few examples of how a compensation philosophy might sound in practice. These are excerpts rather, as philosophy itself is a set of principles and statements that are usually spelled out in more detail. Here are some example excerpts. We are willing to pay more than others to be the best in our market. High results deserve appropriate rewards like Netflix, and another snippet of compensation philosophy. We need to create an atmosphere of recognizing and encouraging innovation to accumulate employees' intellectual potential. And third, link rewards to the performance of the company, division, and individual employees to encourage collaborative efforts towards achieving corporate goals, and so on. If you work in compensation and benefits, total rewards, or you're just a specialist who needs to understand this, I recommend you listen carefully and write down these phrases that are manifestations of compensation philosophy from top management or shareholders, and maybe even set up a meeting to discuss. Let's discuss what compensation principles will advocate, or what compensation principles resonate with you. It's important to understand because when you start developing and proposing something without understanding the compensation philosophy, your proposal will clash with leadership's worldview. Some things will sync up, some will go against it, and you'll argue without understanding why you're not being understood. Here's another separate one. This is if, for example, such sets from different companies. This is how philosophy can unfold in an individual company. Our base salary is based on market practices. We pay slightly below market. Bonuses are available to all employees and allow earning well above market rates. Our executives participate in bonuses based on the company's financial performance. Excellent customer satisfaction can increase revenues by 50%. All other employees participate in local performance-based bonus programs. The company reviews employee salaries annually to remain competitive with other companies in our industry. We also offer a competitive benefits package. This is a set of statements about compensation philosophy. What are the main characteristics of compensation programs? They must meet several criteria simultaneously. It's internal fairness. That is, people should perceive it as fair. External competitiveness. We should be able to compete with others using it. Affordability in terms of costs. We should be able to pay for all of this. Legality, comprehensibility, easy administration, ensuring efficiency, flexibility and alignment with the company's needs. What elements of compensation do we have? They are divided into two basic types. There's regular pay, which doesn't change, and variable pay, called bonuses, premiums, and so on. This is an irregular payout that depends on performance. So how does the overall reward system look? Well, the position a person holds determines the base salary, but a company may have different salary ranges for the same position, called salary bands. Behavioral competencies can influence base salary growth within the current position's salary band. Individual, departmental, or company performance can influence bonuses, and loyalty expressed through long service with the company can also be rewarded with additional elements. There's extra pay for years of service, stock options, shares, and so on. Job grading, which we'll discuss in detail in the course. Why grading is needed in the first place. Grading greatly simplifies salary administration, adds more transparency, simplifies communication, and creates a foundation for effective compensation management, where we determine a person's compensation based on their position, compare positions with each other, and have a unified system of measures for market comparisons. When a company lacks grading, it becomes difficult to determine how much to pay each person. Give anyone a list of positions and ask them to rank them in ascending or descending order, you'll get many different opinions. Because one person may consider one position more important, while another person values a different position, since the importance of different positions will vary depending on what criteria we use. Now let's talk about bonuses. Bonuses are often misunderstood and their essence isn't fully grasped. The main purpose of bonuses is to reward exceptional results. But very often companies use bonuses as a way to reduce risk. Instead of rewarding the best employees with extra pay, the company tells an employee, look, you want to earn $2,000. You'll earn that, but $2,500 will be your base rate and $500 will be a bonus just for meeting goals. This somewhat breaks the purpose of bonuses. People start to view bonuses as just part of their regular salary. Therefore, this approach isn't very appropriate. There are many differences in types of bonuses. We'll study many options, but broadly they can be divided into three categories. Short-term, often referred to as STI, annual bonuses, known as AIIP, and long-term plans or LTI. Accordingly, these are simply abbreviations for the bonus systems that exist. Bonuses can also be one-time, which an employee doesn't expect, as a reward for something unexpected, or they can be regular short-term or regular long-term bonuses. The role of bonuses? For people, bonuses are part of what attracts them to a company. When people are asked what's most important to them, they wait. They see bonuses as an opportunity to earn more when they're ready for it, when they want it. People like possibilities, people like having options. That's what they see in this. Also, when people are asked about benefits, what benefits are important? They sometimes categorize bonuses as benefits. Well, never mind, it's just a perception error. Interestingly, if you look at gender-based research, bonuses are more sought after among men than among women. It's related to something. And accordingly, when people identify the most important material motivational factors for themselves, They also consider bonuses as something that motivates them. What people generally value in a company, what attracts them, what motivates them here. Types of bonuses. So they can be either individual and team-based. Let's just say that most types of bonuses can be applied to an entire team. Only perhaps the hourly payment scheme likely makes sense to apply individually. What types of bonuses are considered global? There is a system called fee-based, daily, weekly, monthly, commission or percentage-based scheme, quarterly, yearly. Salary revisions based on performance are also considered a bonus system called merit. Long-term plans, recognition of achievements, and there can be project bonuses or conditional bonuses where conditions are set and a bonus is paid when they are met. How is a bonus system properly developed? First of all, it is the development of the company's strategy. Then goal formation, cascading goals to departments and employees, job analysis, finding metrics for bonuses, choosing a suitable system, describing it, launching it, budgeting, management analysis, and further optimization. That's how the bonus system works. Global practices in the field of bonuses. To summarize, almost all, let us just say the vast majority of companies in the world, use bonuses in one way or another. That is, there are companies that deliberately refuse to give a bonus, they say, so wages, rather the exception. There are studies on the amount companies spend 6.5% of operating profits on bonuses, and most companies have annual bonuses. Short incentive, a short-term bonus is a minimum of 50% of the target bonus with a maximum of 15 or 20%. That is, what is the target premium? This is the bonus a person should receive if the goals are all met. But more often than not, the companies actually pay less because not all people are more likely to underperform than overperform. For different positions, the percentage of bonuses is different. The largest for the CEO, well, and then it usually decreases down to annual employees. Metrics for bonuses used 1 to 3 types of basic focus on profitability and goal setting based on annual budget. Long-term bonuses. 62% of the company has it, but most are for top managers. There is only one plan at a time, meaning companies do not do much combining there. And most often it is a 3-year period with a basis on the company's financial results. What types of programs are used by companies in terms of popularity? Annual bonuses most companies, then one-time bonuses unplanned, executive discretionary bonuses, team, project and profit sharing plans. Annual bonus amount. Well, here is by level CEO, median, let us say 80%, other top 40% CEOs. The next 10% are office workers and at 5% are labor occupations. That is in the average world. What long-term premiums are based on? There are different options here related to efficiency, to the value of the company, well, or some other varieties. The main goals of long-term bonuses are to retain employees, to link employee bonuses to the company's long-term goals, and to be able to compete with other companies. It can be a focus of employees on some specific goals, for whom long-term incentives apply. For example, for SEO only, some sort of 0% survey, meaning it's typically the SEO and his or her either direct reports or a management team that reports to the CEO. Long-term bonus amount as a percentage of salary, the lower the position, the lower. Now benefits, aka welfare package. They are now and continue to be in the top 5 reasons why people choose a company as an employer. So salary benefits come first, work-life balance, which is also part of benefits, comes second. That is, it is much more important to people than a good working atmosphere, job stability, equality, opportunity for development, career growth, and so on. Another study here on the popularity of all sorts of social benefits. VHI is the most popular, it's insurance. Also by gender, it's interesting to see, for example, VHI, insurance in the first place for men and for women. And another study, or rather bonuses, perks, they also motivate people. There's health insurance at the top of the list too. Benefit purpose. I mentioned at the beginning of the class that the purpose of the compensation benefit system as part of total rewards is to attract and keep employees motivated. We must not forget that the purpose of the benefits is exactly the same. That is, a benefit is not just a gesture of goodwill towards employees, but it is a tool for realizing the company's goals. It's all in the benefits. It's important to target what employees want. It's very easy to make a mistake here. You can offer some cool, expensive benefits. But if people to people they're not super valuable, then you'll be wasting money. What are the main elements of the benefits? It's usually health support, the same insurance. Welfare support, e.g. sports, pension, pay for working hours, some deaths for example, and work-life balance, life outside work. In terms of total rewards is considered as a separate part. In terms of the total benefit is considered as a part of the benefit. Taking care of your health is something that is continually reinforced in benefits. They are also regulated by legislation, and on the legislative side, all sorts of requirements for the company are also growing in the area of benefits, and we in the course will be vitally exploring this. Now, a very popular approach called cafeteria benefits or cafeteria plan is from the English language cafeteria plan. This is where employees are given the opportunity to choose and formulate a customized package within some sort of limit. It's the most popular, most effective thing right now. What this approach does for the company allows for better management of benefit costs, allows for maximization of employee perceptions of benefits, allows for faster benefit design. Because if you've managed benefits, you know very well how difficult it is to add something new, because probably something old has to be abandoned, or you have to carve out an extra budget somewhere. And in flexible benefits, I add as much as I want. It's just that if employees want to choose it, they'll have to something else not to choose it. So it's super easy to add. This increases readiness for any changes in the company. This reinforces the approach and focus on total rewards, where the approach itself is more flexible, better suited to the competitive landscape, and supports progressive cross-companies when the company implements such a thing, and welfare concerns. What it is, why it's important, and why it somehow appeared in the compensation and benefits system. At one time it seemed like something strange. It is as if the company starts to pry into a person's life and advise something, recommend something, manage it somehow. But now we perceive it as normal. Hiring a psychologist for employees is no longer seen as something unusual, you know. Why? Because the only constant in the world, there's this great phrase, the only thing that's constant is change. Changes are happening everywhere, including in how companies build relationships with employees, changes in how employees perceive work. I mean, they're everywhere. And companies were basically interested in taking care of employees. But somehow their concern didn't help much. People continued to burn out at work, people continued to experience stress and still experience stress at work. So simply providing compensation and benefits was not enough and is not enough. Therefore, if a company wants to remain competitive, it needs to look further, it needs to enter this territory. Concern for well-being. Caring about how a person lives their life as a whole, not just the part at work. And this is what, if a company starts doing it, begins to attract, motivate, and retain people. That's why, by the way, the terminology hasn't quite settled yet. Some call it well-being, welfare. Some say work-life. They say it's better to say work-life. Balance works not even as balance, but as the interplay of work and life. Today, it's no longer seen as just a nice-to-have thing, but rather as a business requirement, and it's still an opportunity to stand out from competitors who haven't yet recognized the importance of this trend. It also helps solve problems of overwork, stress, health issues and related costs, and work-life balance efficiency. When a company focuses on this area, it solves many problems at once. And for some companies, it's the only way to survive by focusing on employee needs. In general, they're trying to replace the word balance with effectiveness, because now many people work from home or in hybrid jobs, so it's not about balance. You're supposed to be at home, not at work, but you're working. So it's not about balance, it's about effective integration. Because before it was a position of either here or there. Now it's about how to maximize it so it feels good and comfortable. Therefore, work life today is a special set of policies, practices, programs along with company philosophy that recommends active support for everyone's efforts to succeed at home and at work. And it's about the environment that companies create for such employees. Examples, there are many of them. Different companies, depending on their country and city and what kind of employees they have, may offer different programs, but just to give you an idea. Adoption assistance, car service help, car wash, maintenance, seasonal tire changes, career planning, even longer term than working for the company, career coaching, childcare, up to finding or opening an on-site daycare, company cafeteria, store, company discounts, daycare, education assistance for employees and their children, on-site fitness or gym reimbursement, housing assistance, and accommodations for families, summer camps for children, and so on. Books on today's topic. The main ones I can recommend are one from the World at Work organization, another about Google, a third that's also a very good book about company culture, and a fourth from Basecamp. Homework for those taking the course. In terms of compensation, that is salary, bonuses, and benefits, what are your company's 3 to 5 strengths and 3 to 5 weaknesses? And if you already have some work-life practices in your company, describe them and add a few more that could and should be implemented. With this, our lesson for today comes to an end. Next, we'll move on to more practical issues. We'll start with the topic of job analysis and job descriptions in the form of job profiles, so that this information can then be used in grading, bonuses, and everywhere else. That's all. Thank you to everyone who was online with me. I invite you to take this course, and those who are already on the course. See you soon. I look forward to your homework assignments. Bye-bye, friends.